So your question originally was, though, what do we think the police?
No, what do you think the city of Pasadena can do based on what you've seen and based on your experience, your life experience, and the process, what you understand should be done for community?
Yeah, so that we definitely see the pain in the community, right? And trying to heal from it is so essential, right? But and we definitely want the city to recognize it. You know, you watch this video though, and it suggests that something was, I mean, if it wasn't an honest video and something was planted, and you know, just the way that it might look, they can't go back from that. They've already put that out there and said, well, this is our narrative. And now to go backward from that, I mean, they're never going to. So what happens, what we see now though, is that we have our community pitted against the police. The police are sticking with this narrative, and now how are we supposed to come together? Right, okay, so we heal, and we get our voices heard, and we say, look, there's some injustice here. But remember, they can't come back from that. They already drew the line in the concrete and said, this is what we're gonna stick with, right? They can't come back with an apology that says, you know, the way the sun hit the belt buckle or the phone, it looked like a gun, and I'm sorry, we're under so much pressure all the time, and I discharged my gun accident. They can't go back to that anymore, right? I'm not saying that's what happened or anything, but what we see is we've created this divide now, right? And there's this huge rift between us. And we can do all our healing, and that's great. But still, how are we supposed to come together? And so, what could the city do? You know, and maybe this might not be a popular thing, but somebody needs, I would love to see the police department come out and say, you know, we're going to have some programs here for the kids. We're going to let you know that we are trying to care for you. We're not watching you to profile you like the guy on the video was talking about. We're actually watching over you guys, right? And that would be a really good, you know, if you're thinking of PR, and I don't want to think of a PR spin on things, but there are policemen who really want to watch over and care. There are people who really have a heart, right? And the way things are going these days, even whether it's COVID or it's anything else, I just see that our society, we're being kind of split apart, and then we're creating these divides. You can't even have a different opinion. Used to, you could vote for different presidents and you could still hang out. Now families break apart. And so we're just creating bigger rifts. And so I can't even imagine how are we supposed to get together with the police anymore? How are we supposed to back our Pasadena Police Department if they're thinking, oh my goodness, you're just going to shoot me in my back? Even if I had a gun, why would you shoot me in my back? Right? And so it's just, I can't even imagine how the anger must be and the frustration in your family and just the community that are closer to it. I'm not African American, right? And so I know it must be even deeper felt. I did grow up with racism. I felt it my whole life growing up. You know, I was in the South and in Texas and stuff. And so there's stuff. You know, I grew up when I was a kid's age. It would always be reminded you didn't quite belong and made fun of all the time. So, you know, in some ways, I have some of that experience. But again, what could the city do? I think the programs that they could do to bring us together, like this community event. Maybe there's a bounce house, and there could be a concert. There's some refreshments, and we bring the community together with who? Bring them together with our law enforcement. Maybe law enforcement shows up, have some representatives come. I wish they were here today, you know. And then we can actually know that, hey, they're human beings like us too. You know, because I think we start to not see them as humans as well, right? Because we still need them. So could they do something? And if they're not going to do something, do we need to be the ones that do that? Do we need to be the ones who set up a police appreciation, Pasadena police appreciation? Sometimes we need to come to that table not with our guns loaded and ready to fight, but come to the table with basket of fruit, you know, and approach it that way. Maybe our community is bigger than them, and we're the greater one, you know. So, I mean, anytime you have an argument, something going on, the person who apologizes first is not the weaker loser. That person who apologizes first is probably the stronger person. So, I don't know, it's, you know, it's easy for me to say because I'm not African American, but what if we did approach them? What if we did come out first and say, damning evidence, all this stuff, you stuck with it, you had your reasons, I'm not gonna be the one I'm gonna let God judge you from this point forward, but what can I do right now? And I'm gonna bring that basket of fruit and come there. So I don't know if it's a popular opinion approach, but yes, we've gotta heal and then get our strength back and show we're even stronger. And because we have to cross that divide. We're gonna bring the hands, hold the hands, and cross that, you know, cross that again. It doesn't have to be. I mean, when you watch TV, the media, it's splitting us apart. It's driving the bigger wedge between all of us. But then when we sit down, it's different. I don't know. I'm going to share a story here. This is I used to go to a Chinese church. You know, my family were Asians, so we go to this Chinese church with all our Chinese people. And we're like, that's good, that's good. And then, I don't know, something just didn't quite feel like it was all there. And it wasn't right. And then I ended up at this church called Fellowship in Rovia. And then this pastor comes up, his name's Albert Tate, and he's black. And you're just like, oh my goodness, this guy is the most amazing communicator, speaker ever. And it was about we're multicultural, intergenerational. And so what happened was, I'm sitting there in the pews, and there's people who are black to my right, Hispanic to my left. Maybe there's an Asian person over there, a white person or two here and there. And you're just like, oh, okay. You don't know anything's going on, anything's just like, okay, it's a great speaker. You keep coming back, And eventually, I don't see the color anymore. You're just like, I love you. You know what? You know, I have patients, they come see us, and there's no difference. It starts to change. And one of the things that we realized was the most segregated time and day of the week was Sunday at 10 or 11 or what time, right? And I thought, oh my goodness, that's true. And so we always like to go to that little circle. And then it's easier from there. Well, when you're in that circle, you kind of see the other people like, oh, well, they're like that. Or they do those things. Or oh, the cops, the police. And so you're just in your own, what we call echo chamber, because it's kind of echoing now. So all you hear is the same thing that you're saying. And you just hear whatever people are complaining about, and you tend to be around that same thing all the time, just echoing the same negative stuff that's out there. And so what happens is when we start to feel and think these negative things, it's interesting though, we start to manifest it, you start ending up seeing it as well. Versus when we started breaking those things down. So then suddenly, as those things broke down, we started, you know, in our family, we started seeing more love or more care and compassion between races. You know, and Asian people, they're pretty racist. I would have to say they can be pretty racist too, right? But because we're in our little ethnocentric circles. So I think we're all bigger than that, and I think our community, this community could really, if the Pasadena City's not gonna do something, I mean, it'd be nice if they did so we can just go and participate and have fun. But what an opportunity it would be if we were the ones stepping out. And I think Alan Shea here, I want to thank him for that because he's trying to do that. And he's doing those things. He's actually talked to the police department and said, why don't you guys do something with us? And I think they all agreed that would be a good thing. It's just today would have been a hot button for them because I think it's because of what you've done. You know, if you covered something up. I'm not saying that's what happened. You know, I know we want to try to use this forum to kind of talk to the city and the police department, but we got to pull the community together. It's not be on the defensive against this community. Don't be scared of this community because you're afraid what they might think because of last year's event, tragedy. But let's do that. Let's be the bigger person, and we can heal this.